Hello everyone, this is Paramita and I heartily welcome you to my channel Paramita PM. If you are new to my channel, then I would request you to go through the content of my channel, and if you really find them helpful, then do like it, share it, and do not forget to subscribe to my channel. And now, without any further delay, let us get into today's lecture. Today in this video lecture, I will be looking at a very important as well as interesting topic, the theatre of the absurd, that emerged in the late 1950s. Now, before we try to understand this particular genre, that what the theatre of the absurd means, it is very essential to know the root of its origin. As far as the theatre of the absurd is concerned, it was highly influenced by the philosophy of existentialism, and mostly, or to be, let's say, to be very specific, it was mostly influenced by the famous essay, The Myth of Sisyphus, that was published in 1942 by the famous French philosopher Albert Camus, where he uses the term absurd for the first time, and he used it in order to describe the human situation, which he considered to be essentially absurd in nature. As far as the theatre of the absurd is concerned, we should not forget that it also has its roots in the post-World War era in Europe. So in some way we can say that it also emerged out of the ashes in the post-World War era in Europe. Now, in order to understand the essence of the theatre of the absurd, we should try to connect the Second World War and the consequences, as well as the human predicament, to the theatre of the absurd. As far as the Second World War is concerned, we all know that it was a devastating historical event that shook mankind. In fact, it's not just the Second World War, but also the First World War. These two historical events brought about a devastation in the world. In the Second World War era, people, or let's say humanity in general, suffered from a sense of meaninglessness, suffered from a sense of purposelessness, because all the pillars of faith, like be it the king, the government, or let's say religion, mankind had immense faith in these three pillars of society. But with the breaking out of the Second World War once again, because nobody ever thought that after the First World War, another World War will ever take place, after having seen the devastation, the destruction wrought by the First World War. But then when the Second World War took place, people suffered, or mankind, like I said, humanity in general suffered from a sense of purposelessness, meaninglessness, and a complete state of disillusionment. And as a result of this, they felt that there is no meaning to their life, and no matter how much they strived, how much they struggled to add meaning to their life, it failed. And this is where absurdism comes in. According to the philosophy of absurdism, human life is essentially absurd, and no matter how much we try to arrive at a meaning of our life, we shall fail, because according to absurdism, there is no such meaning of life. We cannot therefore reach at a point where we can say that yes, we have been successful in attaining or in adding a meaning, or in figuring out the meaning of our life. So this is the situation that prevailed in the post-World War, the Second World War era. And like I said, people found themselves stuck in a situation. They couldn't get out of it easily. And it was actually not possible for them to get out of that situation. It was like a quagmire. And a kind of void, you can say, or a kind of emptiness that mankind suffered from. In fact, it was after the Second World War that the famous phrase came into being, which we all know, that is the lost generation. Now, why is that particular generation considered to be lost? It is because they did not have any values at that time. Like, all the values that they already had in their life, got shattered. Their faith got shattered, so they suffered from a sense of, like I said, disillusionment and an immense loss of faith. They did not have faith in anything. So in this it was during this time, like we know that the Second World War took place. It started in 1939 and it continued till 1945. So it was in the 1950s and 1960s that the theatre of the absurd came into being, and it was, like I said, it was highly influenced by the French existentialist philosopher Albert Camus, who came up with his famous essay, The Myth of Sisyphus, where we find that Sisyphus is given, is eternally punished. In that sense, we can say, because we find in the essay Sisyphus he's given the task of rolling a stone up the hill. Okay, and every time he rolls it up the hill, it again comes down. So it is a kind of, you can say, a never-ending circle for Sisyphus. So what the absurdists are saying, that Sisyphus is continuously rolling that stone up the hill, but then when again it comes down, Sisyphus does not give up. He does not commit suicide. So for the absurdists, suicide is not a solution, but as helpless individuals, what we have to do is we have to accept that life is essentially absurd, and then we have to accept this absurdity, or accept life as it is. So this is what the absurdists are saying, that no matter how much we try, how much hard work we put in, how much struggles we undergo in our life in order to find a meaning in our life, we can never attain it, because no such meaning actually exists. And therefore this can be very well related to the post-World War predicament, where we find mankind suffering from a sense of futility, meaninglessness, purposelessness, and disillusionment. So this is the situation that is portrayed in the theatre of the absurd. Moreover, here I would like to say that this theatre of the absurd is not the result of any absurdist movement. No such formal movement ever took place as far as this absurdism is, this philosophy of absurdism is concerned. But then we have famous philosophers who are associated with this philosophy of absurdism, like Albert Camus. Then we have Adamov, then we have Harold Pinter, and of course Eugene Ionesco. In order to connect the Second World War to the theatre of the absurd, this genre, it is important to note that the theatre of the absurd was actually portraying a time period that suffered, or that encountered spiritual void, or you can say spiritual emptiness. After having seen the devastation, after having seen the atrocities of the Second World War, some people felt that there is actually no meaning to life. Life itself is absurd, because when people get killed all of a sudden on such a huge scale, so it was the world itself became a very frightening, you can say, an illogical place for mankind. And they felt that a life has itself lost all meaning, and therefore they found their existence to be completely futile, completely, like I said before, purposeless or meaningless. And from that perspective, we can say that the kind of plot or the kind of plot or the characteristics that we come across in the theater of the absurd very well, relate to the post-World War predicament in Europe, especially Paris, because during this time, most of these these absurd playwrights, they lived in more specifically, they lived in Paris as exiles. So they could very well connect to the situation, and we cannot say that these philosophers, this group of philosophers, they came up with this. Philosophy of absurdism, and through their works they were trying to translate their philosophy into drama. It's not that they were trying to convey their philosophy to the audience through their works, but what they were doing was that they were sharing. Their works actually shared their common intellectual outlook, and they looked for a different kind of medium, a different form of art that could enable them to convey the social situation, or to communicate the social situation of the time. That's why they came up with a different form of drama, something that completely departed from the traditional drama that we know about. So from that perspective, we can say that the theatre of the absurd as a genre departs from the traditional form of drama. And as far as the content is concerned, we can say that Albert Camus, he actually he played a very important role in giving birth to this kind of theatre, or this kind of drama. To talk about characterization in the theatre of the absurd, if you are preparing yourself to read a drama belonging to this genre, then be mentally prepared that you are not going to witness relatable characters, or you are not going to witness characters who you already know, who you are familiar with. And this is once again deliberately done by the dramatists. They come up with such characters who do not have any motivation in their life, who do not have any purpose in their life, and most importantly, although they perform dates, they do some actions, but still we find they do not develop. There is no evolution of the characters. They do not evolve in any way. Like I already said, that they do some, we do find these characters, doing some actions on their own, but these actions do not contribute to their life in any way. They do not improve their situation in any way. So therefore the characters do not evolve, they do not develop, they continue to remain in a state of limbo, which is a kind of, let's say, a situation which continues like a cycle. Just as in a conventional drama we find that cause and effect. Why does the dramatist use cause and effect relationship? In order to add, or you can say, in order to make the plot coherent in its structure, or in order to have the flow, in order to make the flow of the drama, the flow of the plot appear spontaneous and natural. But this is something that they do away with. The absurd dramatists, they do away with. They do not have any cause effect relationship in order to link scenes. So everything in the plot appears to be fragmented, incoherent, and therefore it is this fragmented structure that also reflects the fragmented psyche of the individual, where they fail to develop, where they fail to evolve as an individual. Like I said, they continue to remain in a state of limbo. They do not seem to have any touch with each other, or they seem to be completely out of touch with their surroundings. To talk about the features or the characteristics of the theatre of the absurd, we need to know, like I said before, that it completely departs from the traditional or the conventional form of drama. Now let us see that in what way it departs. What we generally come across in a conventional or in the conventional form of a drama is a linear plot, like coherent dialogue and coherent action, where we also find that there is a cause and effect relationship, that if something happens, there is a cause, so it invariably leads to an effect. This is something that is completely absent in the theater of the absurd. We never come across a linear plot, rather we come across a non-linear plot. There is absence of proper dialogue. In fact, we can say it is this incoherence that pervades the theater of the absurd. And as far as action, or let's say no such action takes place, because we all know that drama means that it will be there would be drama means action, but it is this action that is absent. Or we can say, yes, there is action in the theater of the absurd, but that is not coherent. Characters are there, but they seem to be they appear to move in a cycle, and therefore they are portrayed in a way that where they appear to be very busy in their life, but that busyness does not give rise to anything constructive, or does not lend any value or meaning to their life. And that's why when we read a play belonging to the theater of the absurd, belonging to this genre, we find that meaning also remains absurd. Meaning also appears completely ambiguous. So, and that is why when the theater of the absurd came into being for the first time, critics couldn't understand what to make of this kind of drama. They couldn't understand what is going on, or what kind of action is this in a drama, because this is something that they encountered for the first time. Because like I said, it doesn't have a linear plot, it doesn't have a proper beginning, the plot doesn't have a proper middle or a proper end as such. So therefore the structure completely deviated from the traditional dramatic structure, which actually angered critics, because they felt that this group of dramatists, they were simply flouting, or let's say they were simply what should I say, they were simply playing with the rules and regulations of writing drama. So but gradually we find that the essence or the importance of this genre came to be understood by the audience, where we find that although characters on the surface they appear to be purposeless, they appear to be ridiculous, we do not find the characters doing something very constructive, or getting involved in proper action, yet we find that the drama does convey a very significant message to readers, which has to do with the let's say with our existence, which has to do with our metaphysical distress, something that is beyond our perception, something that we really cannot see or cannot feel, but it is still there. So like I said, the voidness that people encountered in the post-World War era, the futility of their existence, that they found their life to be illogical, without any meaning, this is very much reflected in the theater of the absurd. And it is for this purpose, in order to portray the situation, the social situation of the time, this kind of structure was adopted, this kind of dramatic structure was adopted by the dramatists, whereby they did not, just as life was incoherent, life seemed to be without meaning, life seemed to be without any cause and effect, life seemed to be purposeless, so is the play. Even the characters, they are found performing actions, but these actions do not bring about any change in their life, or their actions do not improve their life in any way. They continue to remain stuck in their situation, thereby underlying the or underlining, the futility of their existence, the meaninglessness of their existence. And therefore, here we can once again say that how, life appears to be completely absurd to the characters, and therefore the dramatists belonging to this genre, they deliberately use such incoherent dialogue, incoherent action, and of course a non-linear plot in order to convey this sense of futility and the meaninglessness of one's existence in the post-World War era. I hope I have been able to make you understand the essence of the theater of the absurd. So if you really find the lecture helpful, do like it, share it, and please do not forget to subscribe to my channel. Until then, bye bye.